Hello and welcome back. This is Miscellaneous Mischief 48, and today we're going to continue our valve rigging tutorial series with the intermediate level. Basically what that is that we're going to be rigging not only this coupling rod, but this connecting rod, crosshead, and sidebars as well. Now first thing we're going to do, just like in the last tutorial, is to create an armature. We're going to rotate this on the x-axis by 90 degrees. This will be our root bone. Okay, so with the root bone there, let's just go ahead and apply all of the objects that won't be controlled by another bone to the root bone. We'll go ahead and parent these objects to the root bone. This includes these external pistons and these sidebars. So let's select the external pistons, then select the root bone, and we'll go into pose mode. Select that bone, press Ctrl P, and then parent it to the bone. Let's do the same thing to the sidebars. Select the root bone, press Ctrl P, and parent them to the bone. Let's just make sure we did that correctly in pose mode, and you see that it moves quite nicely, moves correctly. And I think let's go ahead and parent the rear and front wheels as well. Let's just get that out of the way now. Let's select this. But this time when we parent it, we're going to set it to armature deform with empty groups. Then we're going to select the wheel, go into edit mode, select all the vertices by pressing A, go to vertex mode, and then assign these to the bone. Sorry, the root. Hold on. There we go. We'll assign this to the root. Let's just make sure. Yep, that's the correct one. Now let's do the same thing for the other wheel. For the front wheel, and the other front wheel. Okay, now with all the objects parented to the root bone that won't be controlled by any other bones are now parented. Let's just turn off subsurf right now, so that we save CPU power. Your wheels may not have subsurf, but mine do, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way right now. Okay, so let's try to move that around, and there we go. That's the smoothness I'm talking about. So as you can see, the crank pins have already been separated, but don't worry, in the beginner's tutorial I discussed how you do that. Okay, basically for the intermediate tutorial we're going to apply everything we learned from the beginner's tutorial, plus more. So let's go ahead and select the crank pin and our coupling rod. It's parented to the root bone. In fact, let's go ahead and reparent that. Let's get rid of those constraints. Select the bone, press Ctrl P, parent it with empty groups. Yes, it seems to be correct. There we go. And you can see there's some distortion going on here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select these, press Ctrl N. Just in case, I'm going to go down here to the object and press apply, rotation, and scale. Appear to have encountered a little problem. This may not have, there you go, fixed it. Now you may not encounter this problem with your wheel valve gear setup, but in case you do, there you go. So now let's reparent it. Empty groups. That looks good in subsurface, but without it. You know what? You know what? Let's just move on. Let's just move on. This is not important. Yeah, it's not important at all. Now let's reparent that. Empty groups. Let's assign that to the root bone. There we go. Those are moving nicely. And let's do the same thing for the crank pins. And just in case, let's go ahead and reparent the crank pins to the wheel if we haven't done so already. So now when we rotate one of the front wheels, the coupling rod should move in synchronicity. Here we go. Now let's go ahead and add that bone, that rotation bone, to the center drive wheel. So what we're going to do is that we're going to press Shift S and put the cursor to the selected. And we're going to press the armature, go into edit mode, press Shift A to add another bone. Let's drag that down. Now this time we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and drag this off to this side. About roughly right there. Let's go ahead and bring this down. This time we're going to rotate it along the x-axis by 180 degrees. And we're going to align this point up to this drive wheel's crank pin. And in order to be precise, let's go ahead and select this drive wheel and then set the origin to that crank pin. Let's go ahead and hide this so we can see that easier. Okay, so let's find this center crank pin. Select these vertices only. Press Shift S, set the cursor to selected, tap back into object mode, press Alt H to hide everything, or to unhide, and select the armature again, and select that point. And then we're going to press Shift S, selection to cursor. Now as you can see, this bone is not straight anymore, but don't worry, we can go ahead and fix that by going to the x-axis coordinates for the tail and hover over it, press Command or Control C, and then paste it onto the head. Now we can drag this bone back out. Now from there we're going to select this point, press E to extrude, and then Z so that it extrudes along the Z-axis, and then pull this down to the rest of the wheel. Now the reason why we have this extra bone here is because we're going to be using what's called an inverse kinematics chain. This will be our IK bone. And the inverse kinematics chain is what we're going to use to rig this crosshead and connecting rod. Let's go over to the bone settings and rename this rotation IK. While we're at it, let's go ahead and name this rotation.L. go ahead and add a dot L here also. Alright, so now we're going to parent this drive wheel to the rotation bones. Control P to empty groups. Now we're going to select all the vertices and apply this only to the rotation.L. Just make sure. Okay, I'm encountering a little problem here. Let me just undo that. I'm going to make sure I applied the rotation and the scale. Okay, let's try this again. Set the bone roll to 0. Let's try setting the bone roll to 0, see what that does. No, doesn't fix it. Oh, I see what happened. Because apparently this is applied to the root bone also. I don't know how. But let's go ahead and remove those vertices. It should be fixed. There we go. Okay, now we can finally move on. Let's go ahead and set copy rotation to these wheels while we're at it. Go to the Constraints tab, add a copy rotation, armature, rotation.L. Don't forget to set these to local space. And now let's do the same thing on this wheel. There we go, and that's already looking good. Okay, now things are going to get a little bit tricky. Now we're going to rig this connecting rod and the crosshead. So what we're going to do is that we're going to select the crosshead first. Go tab into edit mode. It's going to select this ending circle. Press Shift S, put the cursor to selected. Then we're going to select the armature, tab into edit mode. We're going to press Shift A to add another bone. Drag this down. Let's rotate it along the x-axis by -90 degrees. Now let's get the center of this crosshead, tabbing into edit mode. Selecting this entire thing. Deselect these vertices. Shift S and cursor to selected. Let's tab back into object mode and let's select this bone and then press Shift S, selection to cursor. In fact, let's go ahead and move this bone all the way back. Select this again, press Shift S, cursor to selected. Then let's go back to this bone, press Shift S, selection to cursor. Whoops, wrong one. Okay, now we're going to select the center of this crosshead. Shift S, cursor to selected. E to extrude. Shift S selection to cursor. There we go, that's more like it. Now, I'm going to press E to extrude, drag this all the way to this pivot point of the connecting rod. In fact, let's select the end point of the rotation.L and the beginning point of the rotation IK. Shift S, cursor to selected. Then select this bone. Shift S, selection to cursor. Let's go ahead and move that out. Actually, let's move all of these out. Alright, now we're going to get started on this inverse kinematics bone chain. So what we're going to do is that, let's go ahead and set this to X-ray so we can see everything that we're doing. We're going to select this bone, go to pose mode, and then go over here to the bone constraints tab. Now from the drop down menu, you're going to select inverse kinematics. Set the target to the armature, and the bone to that rotation IK bone that we made earlier. Let's set the chain length to 3 until it reaches that last bone. Let's name this connecting rod.L, crosshead.L, and piston.L. So now we're going to select the crosshead bone, go down here in the bone tab to where it says inverse kinematics, and we're going to lock the X, Y, and Z. Next we're going to select the piston bone and do the same thing, lock X, Y, and Z. But for this, we're going to set the stretch all the way to 1. So now, when we select the rotation.L, we should get this effect. Here we go. It's looking really good. So now we're going to parent the respected objects to their bones, to their assigned bones. So first, let's parent the connecting rod. Let's go ahead and select these 3 bones. Press M and move the bones to this bone layer. You can see all the bone layers in this armature tab. They're right here. Now we're going to select the coupling rod and select the armature, press Ctrl P and parent it with empty groups. And we're going to assign all of the vertices to the connecting rod.L. And we're going to do the same thing to the crosshead. We're going to parent it with empty groups. And then we're going to set the vertices to crosshead.L. And the piston doesn't require any vertices. So now, here we go. Let's see if this works out. And there you have it. You know, I think I might as well move the pistons out so that no phasing occurs with that. Okay, let's see how that looks now. Let's see how that looks in edit mode. Yeah, we can move these out a lot. Let's move this out. See how that looks. Okay, now let's move them back in. There we go. It's Alt R. And there you go. That's basically how you rig a valve gear setup with a coupling rod, a connecting rod, and a crosshead. Now, we're going to do the same thing, but on the other side. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to select all of the bones except for the root, tab into edit mode, and then press Shift C to reassign the 3D cursor to the origin. Sorry. Then we're going to press Shift D, then press Control. Whoops. Don't forget to set this to 3D cursor. I always forget to do that. Now we're going to press Control, M, and X to mirror it along the X-axis. Now to make sure of that, we're going to go down here to Armature, and then press Flip Names. And now we're going to do the whole parenting thing. We're going to parent this drive wheel. Control P with empty groups. So that I don't make that mistake again, I'm going to apply the rotation and scale. Now I'm going to parent it. Just to make sure. Okay, gotta remove these and then apply all of the vertices to rotation.L. Why did I say rotation.L? Hold on. I'm not thinking straight. Rotation.R. There we go. Now we're gonna add those copy rotation constraints to the front and rear wheels. But this time we're going to set them to rotation.R. Space and local space. Alright, so we got that basic rigging set up. Now we're going to hide these, move them to the second bone layer. They're already there. Now we're going to parent all of these objects. Assign these to connecting rod.R. Crosshead.R, and there we go. Got that side rigged now. First, let me double check to make sure that everything is moving with the root. Okay. So we're going to tab into edit mode, select these two bones, and then select the root bone, press Control P, and parent them, but keep them offset. There we go, that fixed it. Okay. Now, when we try to move it around, you see that these don't want to move around. That's because not only do we have to parent these rotation bones, but we have to parent the starting points of the IK bone chain. So let's select these two bones, and then select the root bone, press Control P, and parent them, but keep them offset. And there we go. Now it's moving around. Okay. Now we're gonna add one big rotation bone to control all of the wheels in valve gear, and with the quartering effect that I showed in the last tutorial. Sorry if I seem to be stuttering a lot and not knowing what to say. I'm very tired. I'm exhausted. I was outside working out all day. So bear with me. We're almost done. We're almost done. We're going to get through it. I'm going to get through this. We're going to get through this. All right. Now we're going to tab into edit mode. We're going to select this drive wheel. Press Shift C. Set the cursor to selected. Now we're going to select the armature, tab into edit mode, press Shift A to add a new bone. Let's drag this down to about the diameter of the radius of the wheel. Let's Let's rename this bone to wheels. And we're going to go to the rotation.L, go to the bone constraints tab, add a copy rotation. This to armature, wheels, local space, local space. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one. Let's rotate this on the x-axis by 90 degrees. Sorry, negative 90 degrees. Then we're going to add that copy rotation constraint. Armature, wheels, local space, local space. And don't forget to select the offset. Now we're going to select this bone, and then select the root bone, press Ctrl P, and then parent, but keep it offset. Now let's test to see if this will move around properly, and it seems to be moving around properly. Now let's go ahead and hide this second layer. Let's go ahead and move these bones to the second layer also, as we don't need them anymore. And let's see how this looks. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. We got it. Awesome. Amazing. Now, one thing that I forgot to cover in the last tutorial, something that would be really helpful, is to add a limit rotation constraint to this bone. So we're going to go to the bone constraints tab, add a limit rotation, set this to local space, but only check off Y and Z. Leave the X unchecked. That way, if you were to just press R, then it would only rotate along the X-axis. Of course, it's not going to be perfect unless you select R and X. But at least it won't go all over the place like it does with this. See, at least it won't do that. Just select these two, check these two. Also, so that when you press G to grab, it won't move around everywhere, because you're not going to need that. Let's go over, press N to open up this window, and then lock the location and lock the scale. That way, if you were to press G to grab, then it would rotate. Then it would only do what it's supposed to do, which is rotate along the x-axis. And there we go. This is the intermediate tutorial of the valve gear rigging tutorial. And I'll see you guys next time for the expert level tutorial. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to wait a while for that one, because that one is still currently in the modeling stage. But the good news is that it's almost done with the modeling stage. So maybe you won't have to wait so long after all. It's still going to take a while though. So until then, I'll see you next time.